Like unexpected events in life, sometimes we encounter strange situations. However, the life of our protagonist, Kimura, today is a series of days spent waiting for the evening. He is a highly skilled locksmith who can handle all kinds of complex locks. But they were unable to unlock their own luck. Kimura's job wasn't easy. Even with a fixed price, he was frequently pressured by clients to lower his prices because he worked. Upon returning to the company, I received reprimands from my superiors for he even faced the risk of being fired. It seemed like life was already bad enough. Fate decided to add salt to Kimura's wounds on a fateful afternoon. The heavens sent a truck to run him over and kill him, and then transported him to a whole new world. However, unlike the stagnant life in his old world, Kimura's locksmith skills proved incredibly useful in this new world. Instead of spending a huge amount of money on sorcerers or shamans to open secret doors or vaults, adventurers could then approach Kimura at an extremely reasonable price, and in doing so, he met an incredibly powerful team. First up is the oldest member of the group, an 80th level mage named Morlock, and because he's so overpowered, the author gave him a nerf. He's very forgetful and often mispronounces spells. They even forgot about the group's good fortune. Once, when Morlock was nowhere to be seen, they decided to go into the rot chamber. Morlock then attempted to use teleportation to pursue, but due to a miscalculation of the coordinates, he ended up merging with a Golemna. Then he appeared before them in that form again, once more in a basement full of vibrant colors. Morlock, having forgotten which group he belonged to, naively asked to join another group of fake explorers who were fleeing him. He even forgot he was still alive and joined the other adventurer teams in pursuit. However, behind that deception lay a loyal and devoted heart. When their entire group had been completely wiped out and only Morlock survived, even though his magical powers were depleted, he was determined not to. He single-handedly dragged all their bodies back to the ground, then sold everyone's belongings to raise enough money to go to the church and resurrect them. The second member is Lafanpan, a beautiful and greedy holy fairy mage who also serves as the team's leader. However, after each spell casting, she demanded a generous reward, usually a gold coin, despite them being teammates in the same group and their main source of income often coming from Morlock. Because he often suffered from back pain and high blood pressure. And finally, Raelza, a female knight and the team's main muscle boost. Despite her muscular build, she also possesses a feminine side. And just looking at her face is enough to know there's something going on between her and that man. They also had interesting conversations about the differences in milk between the two worlds. And once, when Kimura was measuring something in centimeters and millimeters, Raelza and Lafanpan looked puzzled. They said that in this world the unit of length is Madaraka, and Lafanpan is about 1 Madaraka tall, equivalent to 30 centimeters. Kimura was curious about the origin of this unit of measurement, and Morlock was in a rare moment of lucidity. He eloquently explained that Madaraka was named after the kingdom's founding king, Madaraka I. The famous bee had something very long, and scholars at the time used its length as a unit of measurement for ceilings, a very funny story I heard. Usually, after each trip, Kimura would return to the prop shop where the shop owner's daughter worked as Mavena. He would collect the spoils of war that he brought back, and he also often helped her with the financial calculation. And sometimes Ryan would go to the prop shop wearing a full-face suit of armor to secretly watch Kimura work. The result was always that he caught her while she just ran away. Since she's so clueless about photos, I advise her friend to be more direct and flirt with him properly. A few days later, Kimura was again hired by Ryan's group to go into the dungeon and unlock it. Everything unfolded as planned. First the guy was attacked by a monster. Old Morlock volunteered to destroy it, but he forgot his incantation midway, which put Kimura in danger. The danger forced Ryan to rush forward and destroy the monster. Everyone else considered this insignificant, but Kimura was different. He didn't want to be a burden and always wanted to be protected. So they begged Morlock to teach them magic, and as they ventured deeper inside, the team encountered a horde of monsters. I say flood because there were so many of them, and even though Ryan had almost exhausted himself slashing at them, this forced her to step back to allow old Morlock to come out and use the divination. Of course, with his forgetful mind, he was unable to complete the incantation. However, this time Kimura stood next to him and prompted him with the and so he unleashed a powerful spell, burning the entire monster city to ashes. This time, Kimura felt he was being more useful, even though his job was just to unlock things. He'd do as much as he could. And since he lacked the magical power to learn spells, men could only memorize incantations to help. Venturing further inside, the group found a beam. However, the other three advised Kimura against opening it because Morlock and Lafan couldn't use magic in that area. Even old Ryan had exhausted all his strength. If the chest contained mimic, however, the guy assured me nothing would happen, then started using his locksmith skills to open the lock. Nothing seemed to have happened, but it was just the chest. The ground suddenly gave way, pulling Kimura deeper down. As a result, the man fell somewhere. Tran was broken, so he could only lie there waiting to die. Because magic is not allowed in this area, Morlock cannot use his magic to search. Even if I told him it was useful, he probably wouldn't remember the mantra. Well, since he's already done it, I guess I have to. Kimura recalled his previous boss saying that if he ever left the company, someone would replace him. It's bitter to think that Kimura would probably find someone else if he died. However, they found Kimura by following the water source. And the way his flashlight illuminated the scene of everyone worrying about him moved him deeply, leaving him speechless. Old Ryan even asserted that no one could replace him, which made him even happier, and then everyone went home together. In the following days, after recovering, Kimura rejoined the Old Ryan's group on a mission, this time encountering a battle eel. And since Old Ryan was too weak to fight because of its clumsiness, this forced Kimura to step in and fight in his place. With the help of Morlock and Lafan, he had to try very hard to take it down. Instead of throwing it away, Kimura decided to turn it into a dish, which made everyone look at him in horror, because they thought they were too smelly and inedible, but Kimura said he could handle it. After returning to the shop, Masa helped him make some homemade skewers, and when she came back, Kimura began preparing. He said that what makes eels smell so fishy is the layer of fat between the flesh and the so, if you steam or grill it, turning it over several times will remove the layer of fat, then add some Everyone who tried it praised how delicious it was, only it was inferior to soma. But only one person refused to eat, and that was Raelza, so Lafan cleverly explained that it wasn't eel but something Kimura had cooked for her. And because she loved him, Raelza tried to eat, just to taste a single bite. She became obsessed with eating and ate a lot. After eating, everyone began exploring the dungeon when they encountered a beam. Learning from his previous experiences of falling into traps, Kimura began. When he saw the trap, he told everyone to retreat. Going deeper inside, they encountered. This time, its trap mechanism was exposed, so Kimura thought he could handle it. All he needed to do was cut 2 of the 3 wires. After observing for a while, he cut the first wire, and nothing happened, which made Morlock and Lafan excited. This distracted him, so he called both of them over, and indeed, he was distracted when he accidentally cut the second wire, activating. A thick mass of material fell from above onto Raelza, but it didn't harm him, it only ate his armor. This caused her to expose everything. Morlock got punched, and Kimura agreed with Lafan that Raelza's, well, you know, was very well developed. That evening, while jogging outdoors, Morlock experienced back pain again and asked Lafan for help. As usual, she demanded a gold coin, but Lao had burned it all on silver. Since she didn't treat him, and feeling sorry for Lao, Kimura and Raelza paid for him instead. When only the 2 of them were left, Kimura asked Raelza why Lafan was so obsessed with money. After hearing this, Raelza said nothing but led Kimura to secretly observe what Lafan was doing. The fairy was offering a coin to someone. And Raelza explained that Lafan was a fairy of the face, a member of the insectoid race cursed by the goddess of the face. If she doesn't pay tribute on the night of the full moon, she might shrink. If nothing is done, in just 5 years she will shrink to the size of a grain of rice. The fairy of light is a species of insect, but because they flaunted their beauty so much, they angered the moon goddess. They were brutally beaten and thrown to the ground, not because it was her fault, but because she was born into such a race. Even if they wanted to help her, she would see it as pity and would refuse. So she tried every way possible to make money, and the next morning, whenever Kimura encountered Yang during their expeditions, he would always ask Lafan to bless him, even though Yang had. He saw this as a way to help her, but even with his blessings, there was still a trap. This time it was a teleportation trap that sucked Raelza and Kimura to another area, and they began moving to find their way out. Unlike last time, because Raelza was a knight, Kimura was nothing more than a burden. If it were an old man, he might be able to remind him to be polite, but with Raelza, he's helpless, especially right now. A gigantic, sharp-bladed goblin appeared before them. This kind of creature could only be defeated by magic, so this was a. Raelza instructed Kimura that if she gave the order, he should run away so she could hold him back, and then Raelza lunged forward. She targeted the joints of the gecko's legs, which initially proved effective, but gradually the monster overwhelmed Raelza. While she still had the chance, she ordered Kimura to run away. It's true that the guy had disappeared a long time ago, but instead of running away, he unknowingly clung to the railing. He lunged at it and poured the metal-eating slime he had taken earlier onto it. Although they successfully weakened it, the gorilla managed to capture Kimura, preventing it from harming her loved one. Raelza rushed to destroy it, but before dying, the creature managed to crush Kimura, sending him back into a near-death state. In this critical situation, Raelza recalled the drop of life item that old Morlock had given her. This will help heal wounds that are beyond saving. Raelza, who was legless, fed Kimura the medicine orally, and when he woke up, he found Lafan and Morlock had arrived. He thought Lafan had saved him, but the fairy said it was Renja who had used an extremely precious item to save him. Kimura apologized for being a burden to Renja and said he didn't know how to repay her. But Lafan said it was alright because it seemed Renja had been paid enough for giving Kimura medicine and shortly after returning from the expedition. Kimura accidentally discovered that right behind the prop shop where he usually worked was a marriage counseling service. There, he overheard a consultation. A picky knight was rejecting a level 28 female mage. She is 38 years old because she is a bit chubby, and also expressed a desire to find someone in their 20s. Although he himself is 42 years old, he is only at level 12, a level far too low for his age. The head of the consulting service bluntly pointed out the absurdity of his request. She explained that the knight's influence would diminish with age, making them less attractive in the marriage market. And if he keeps setting such high standards, he'll never find a life partner. Hearing this, Kimura couldn't help but think about the low level of education for someone, because that also partly reflects his own situation in the old world. He was extremely surprised to learn that a fictional world like this even had marriage counseling services. As fans have explained, this kingdom is quite peaceful. The increasing prevalence of weapons and magic allowed women to participate in adventures that led to their social advancement. At the same time, the treasure trove in the labyrinth gradually ran out, causing the adventurers. The combination of social progress and declining incomes has created a difficult situation for finding a life partner, a problem that seems to be common in every world. The story of both 2 to 8 is like when the old catfish also comes here to find a mate. He tried his best to woo the female employee, who then forced the drunkard to appear. Putting aside their romantic relationship for a moment, Kimura's group continued their exploration. This time they encountered a creature on the bus, and with his body impervious to magic, the man was quickly enchanted and followed them. Of course, Reina wouldn't allow that to happen. She sped towards the mistress and chased her away. After Reina finished, Kimura, still under the influence of her charm, approached her wanting to kiss her. Reina really enjoyed pretending to resist and all that, but just as they were about to kiss, Lafan broke the spell, snapping him out of his daze and leaving him confused. As for Reina, she was free from Lafan's antics, having just finished dealing with Kimura's matter. She was now. However, no one came to his rescue because they knew he had high resistance to magic and was only pretending to be injured to flirt. Their adventure continued with further challenges. They came to an area that had a special trap. It will project its power upon anyone wearing metal armor. This poses a serious problem for Reina. Since she was the only one in the group wearing a Kimet suit of armor, Lafanpan suggested that Reina should laugh off the armor and use magic to move it through the trap. But unlike previous occasions, Reina seemed very hesitant and shy because her loved one was here. Noticing her discomfort, Kimura tactfully offered her one of his jackets and turned away, giving her some privacy to change. After putting on Kimura's oversized coat, Lafan teased her, saying it suited her very well. After everything was prepared, they began to tackle the challenge. However, relying on their short-term memory, he had completely forgotten how the trap worked and had walked right into the trap zone, in stark contrast to the genuine adventures of Kimura's group. Meanwhile, outside the kingdom, they were busy with a completely different plan. They were orchestrating the formation of an officially recognized group. This project was more about performance and politics than actual combat. The hero candidate is a handsome magic warrior named Channel, who was chosen primarily for his looks. Because the current kingdom has no demon lord to fight, this adds to his legitimacy. They staged a scene of drawing the legendary sword, with someone secretly unlocking the sword's mechanism the moment the channel touched. To make him a hero in the public eye, the other members of the group were also selected based on their physical appearance. The female mage Raichi is cute, but she only masters basic spells and knows absolutely no ice magic. She was willing to abandon her mission if faced with a mere spirit because she hated the rolling god, while the scholar Mampui was chosen only because he was the nephew of a high-ranking official. Despite their below-average abilities, this group of heroes, instead of slaying monsters, spends most of their time live-streaming their adventures via the Crystal Bridge, turning their adventure into an entertainment show. They played absurd games like using a frozen slime to play curling on ice while Magistrate Mampui was asleep, and their actions caused a wave of outrage in the Mac community, with comments criticizing the regression. Cruel to Slim and their indecent behavior, public support eventually shifted from the hero and the sorceress to the eunuch Mampui, whose bullying on the French Channel became a drama of Mampui's revenge. Exposing the hypocrisy of so-called heroes while the outside world is preoccupied with political dramas. Kimura was having trouble trying to read an old magic book, his eyes glancing at a locked book. Luckily, it wasn't a magic lock, so the guy could handle that. Kimura used his locksmith skills and easily opened it. Of course, the contents of the book weren't ancient spells, but a secret of Morlock's lair, a strange mushroom with a suggestive shape. Known as the miracle cup mushroom, this exquisite delicacy is highly addictive. Morlock hid it in the book so no one would steal it, but the guy next to him saw it and thought it was no different from that. Then, to Kimura's horror, he calmly explained the type of mushroom and how to suck on it to enjoy it. At this point, Ryan came out looking extremely delighted and demanded his share. This type of mushroom subsequently became a controlled substance due to its highly addictive properties, and during one expedition, an unfortunate incident occurred when Kimura was trying to pluck the whiskers from a field animal, but the way his rope was scratched. This is a great loss for him because it was not just a tool, but also a part of his connection to his homeland. He's not a lamp repairman and can't fix it himself. At this point, the old man suggested they should contact a legendary dwarf lampsmith. He was known as the one who could hear the voice of steel. He was a master craftsman who could create anything from steel. But due to customer complaints about charging excessively high prices for work completed too quickly, he had lost faith in other people and retreated into seclusion deep within a cave, behind a door locked with 108 intricate locks. But for Kimura, those 108 locks were just an interesting challenge. He opened them all with ease, much to the astonishment of the other party. The dwarf lamp repairman agreed to fix Kimura's pliers. And while working on it, he realized its superior craftsmanship and high-quality material. The pliers were repaired perfectly, like new, and Kimura did it as a thank you. He cooked a lavish meal for him. Then Kimura had a fleeting thought. He thought that if he had a gun, he could have become more effective in battles, but he quickly dismissed that thought. He didn't want to introduce such a deadly weapon to the world. Instead, he decided that he would learn to fight the way this world does. And he asked Ryan to teach him how to use a sword. Life in the group went on as usual, but one day Kimura caught a cold and had to rest. His absence from the matches has thrown the whole team into disarray, although it lacks direct combat capability. But Kimura's supportive role was indispensable, because when Morlock forgot the incantation, there was no one to remind him. When Lafanpan was in danger, there was no one to shield her, and when Ryan needed a backup weapon, there was no one to prepare one for her. The whole team realized that without Kimura, they would be almost unable to function effectively. He is not a burden, but an indispensable part of the team. And in the early days of his arrival in the new world, Kimura had the opportunity to confide in Mavina about his past. He said that in his previous life, he worked for a small construction company. The work was hard, the pay was low, and when he complained to his boss, he coldly fired him without a word of apology or attempt to persuade him. That incident made him feel worthless, and that his existence had no meaning. He even thought about death. But then he was brought back to this world. His first moment here was a perilous encounter with Ryan. The initiator mistook him for an enemy and nearly killed him if it weren't for Morlock's intervention. People realize that he has no magical powers whatsoever and may have come from another world. Kimura's story led Malvina to speculate that Ryan might still be targeting him, but in a completely different way, while Ryan was out and about. Genti was jealous when she overheard Kimura and Malvina chatting intimately after her recovery. An old question has returned to Kimura's mind. And how could the iron golem they had fought before move? He remembered hearing a mechanical sound, like an engine, not the sound of magic. This curiosity prompted the group to return to the 10th layer of the Mekong where they had battled it. Despite having to pay an entrance fee each time, and the Mekong River becoming they still decided to search for answers, but when they arrived, they found no fragments of the golem. But then a strange object appeared and hurtled towards them. It wasn't a monster. It's an automatic vacuum cleaner robot, a high-tech product from Kimura's own world. The robot led them to a stone wall, where Kimura noticed something unusual. He realized it was a layer of magical camouflage, designed to be undetectable by ordinary magical perception. One clash used magic to dispel the disguise layer, and when it disappeared, a giant door hidden behind the wall was revealed. Behind the door lies a completely new area of the Mekong, an extension unknown for decades. This momentous discovery shook the entire kingdom, and the area was named the Kimura Tunnels in honor of the man who found it. This event ushered in a new era of exploration. Adventurers from all over flocked to the kingdom, bringing prosperity to both the kingdom and Kimura's group. Those who benefited from this exploratory posture saw the dawn of a great era of exploration begin, and right at the entrance to the Great Mekong River, administered by the kingdom, the atmosphere became more bustling than ever with the influx of countless adventurers. As a fan, I feel it's a bit unfair that Kimura was the one who discovered the new area, but the kingdom is the one managing and profiting from it. However, Raelza explained that the Mekong was originally the kingdom's property and that was in return. Their team received an incredibly valuable privilege, free access to the gate for the next 10 years. A fitting reward for their historic discovery as they prepared to embark on their adventure. Raelza suddenly noticed that Kimura was lost in thought about the robotic vacuum cleaner that had led them to their great discovery. A vague sense of unease arose within her. She wondered if Kimura was still clinging to his old world. Is he longing to return to where he once belonged? And that thought weighed heavily on her heart, unexpectedly. Their concentration was interrupted by a confident and somewhat arrogant voice. A handsome young man approached and introduced himself as Ken. The hero, officially recognized by the kingdom, offered a perfunctory thank you to Kimura for finding a new path. But it was immediately emphasized that the role of the trailblazer and the role of the trail conqueror are entirely different. He claimed that the main characters in this great labyrinth were himself and the beautiful sorceress who accompanied Raelza. After putting on a show of ostentatious self-praise, they quickly left. Kimura's group was left feeling uneasy. However, shortly afterward, a man ran up to apologize and introduced himself as Montu Fu. The man, who claimed to be responsible for educating the young heroes, came to apologize for Ken's disrespectful behavior. The man appeared extremely polite and eager to receive help from Kimura's group, but someone stopped Kimura when he tried to shake hands with Montu. The girl warned that the man was hiding something in his hand. It was indeed a paralyzing spell, and all those who had shaken hands with him earlier fell to their deaths. Unable to move when his plot was exposed, he quickly fled. Soon after, everyone's attention shifted to another group of adventurers who had just returned from inside the Mekong, carrying the head of a bronze dragon as their spoils. A legendary-level monster that astonished everyone present. Ryan assessed that the female elf warrior was a formidable opponent. Perhaps they were on par with or even better than her, but she also pointed out that the team had just beaten the Silver, comprising an old sorcerer and a man who resembles a newly emerged warrior. They are the strongest group here. They exuded an extraordinary aura that no one could underestimate, and their presence set a new standard for competition in Mekong. And the truth about the strongest group is revealed. These two men are from the royal palace. The king sent them down to find it before anyone else could. However, while they were discussing matters in a secluded corner of the Mekong, one of them was attacked, yet he was unable to detect the enemy. It was a ninja named Kizurugi, who unleashed a series of attacks in front of him. Killing the fallen enemy in an instant after taking down his target, Kizurugi called out the name of Primars. He quickly used a high-level magic spell to incinerate the bodies, ensuring that no one could resurrect them. But the other two had, at the opportune moment, activated a spell to forcibly withdraw just before they both moved to a hospital to receive emergency treatment. After returning to the palace and reporting his defeat to the king was not only not angry but also seemed amused by what had happened in the Mekong. He even considered going there in person to experience it. Despite the fact that this could cause a serious diplomatic problem, the defeat of the strongest group caused a major upheaval. And the race to conquer the Great Mekong enters a new, turbulent phase, returning to the Kimura group. They are currently facing many difficulties after encountering the monster. The monster blew out a blast of air that instantly put the old man to sleep, rendering Kimura, the one who was prompt. Ryan had to go out and fight the monster so that the guy could wake the old man up. Just when things were getting tough, two other elderly adventurers came to their aid. Leading the group was a girl wielding an axe named Lilitha and a handsome but rather gloomy-looking young man named Noi. They were quick in defeating the monster and saving Kimura's group from danger. However, they also immediately claimed ownership of the rare and precious parasitic creature guarding it, viewing it as a valuable. And then Kui, with his mixing skills, began to unlock the puzzle. But it seemed he was having trouble, so Kimura volunteered to help. Lilitha showed disdain, so Ryan reminded her not to underestimate their Kimura. Hearing that, it seems like Ryan's fans are only for him. While watching the guy unlock the door, Lilitha found him increasingly attractive. According to Kui, those with a hunchback are boys with dark eyes and small faces, and Kimura perfectly fits that ideal image. The way Kimura managed to open the door to Kui's heart seemed to have also opened the door to Kui's heart. The young man immediately expressed his admiration for Kimura. This creates a situation that forces Lafanpan to declare to Ryan that a new romantic rival has emerged. Shortly after that, another incident occurred. Kimura got separated from the group and coincidentally met Manboy, the monk in the group of heroes, who was also traveling alone. Manboy was suspicious and kept his distance. He erected a magical barrier just to protect himself and ate dried potatoes alone. In stark contrast, Kimura, despite being treated coldly, remained friendly and considerate. He made his own silver vessels to carry holy water that he had prepared himself, a simple but extremely useful invention to combat color fading. And he also prepared steamed rice cakes preserved using the same magic used to create the color. A unique idea that showcased his creativity and adaptability. Kimura cheerfully baited the crowd with a flatbread. Despite having been treated very badly before, this act of kindness left the man extremely confused and ashamed. He refused because of the poisoning, but deep down, he knew he had been poisoned. He recalled the criticism he received on live television, the isolation, and the pain of being bullied by his own teammates. He understood that if he wanted to be treated well, he first had to treat others well. Just as past traumas prevented him from changing his way of life, both of their groups found them at that very moment. Kimura's team was overjoyed to see him safe, expressing a warm and sincere bond, while the channel, the proud hero. He also went to find Manbui, and he anxiously scolded Manbui for going alone on his own, and calling him a friend was another unexpected and touching moment. This shows that even within that group of fake heroes, genuine feelings still exist. However, that truce did not last long. Another dispute over ownership of a treasure chest broke out between Kimura's group and a group of the female elf warrior named Flanro. Neither side would yield to the other, so they decided to settle their dispute with a duel between the two strongest warriors from each side. Raya and Javer Flanro, although fighting between adventurers in the labyrinth is forbidden. They used a magical spell to legitimize the match, ensuring that no matter the outcome, no one would harbor resentment. The match began, and it unfolded exactly as Kimura had predicted. Flanro, with the superior speed of an elf, relentlessly attacked the joints in Raya's heavy armor, putting Raya on the defensive. As part of Kimura's plan, at the crucial moment, Raya activated a special mechanism installed by Kimura. Her heavy outer armor burst open, revealing a lighter inner layer, allowing her to suddenly increase her speed for counterattacks. However, in his haste, Kimura made a shocking mistake. His design caused the chest armor to come loose, resulting in an embarrassing wardrobe malfunction. This unexpected incident distracted both fighters, causing them to retreat simultaneously, resulting in a draw in the match. In the end, Kimura gave Flanro's group half as a fair share, and then continued their expedition. Kimura's group encountered the vacuum cleaner again, and because he was so curious about the robot, he followed it alone into a secret passage and got separated. Here he saw many more treasures from his world. However, he was quickly ambushed by Kisurugi and his Han accomplices in the shadows, just as he was in danger. Rai arrived just in time to protect him. However, Han had some kind of skill that restrained her by kicking her shadow. And shortly afterward, a mysterious dwarf mage named Jibango appeared and attacked Kisurugi while Fanpan used light magic to reveal the enemy's location in the darkness. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Jibango successfully cast a fire spell, injuring Kisurugi and forcing Han to retreat after the battle ended. Jibango approached Morlock and said he was Morlock's disciple and had been searching for his master for the past 20 years. But Morlock, in his chronic state of amnesia, had absolutely no memory of who he was. He only accepts women as his concubines, Jibango said with a sad expression. Explaining that Morlock seemed to have lost his memory a long time ago, he revealed that Morlock was actually a famous sorcerer from a distant land to the east. But 20 years ago, he embarked on a journey to find a forbidden form of magic and then disappeared without a trace. And now, after 2 decades of searching, Jibango has finally found his master right at the entrance to this great Mekong River. Ryan recalled that 20 years had passed, which was also before she met Morlock, and she knew that he had always said he didn't remember anything about his past. Morlock insisted that he hadn't lied, except for the name Morlock and his knowledge of magic. He truly couldn't remember anything else, a sad truth that prompted Lafanpan to jokingly remark that his magical skills had recently deteriorated as well. Having rendered him useless, Jibango expressed his displeasure at the group's lack of respect for their mentor. Considering they were speaking so disrespectfully to a high-ranking sorcerer, this only made Lafanpan find it harder to believe. But Jibango went on to reveal another secret about the game. Morlock was actually just one of the nicknames his master used when wooing wealthy women. And that he was a very charming man, a fact that Jibango himself seemed strangely proud of, in the end. Jibango has formally announced Morlock's real name, the Grand Master of Divination. And as soon as the name Hung Trang was uttered, a surprise attack occurred. To bring Jibango down, it was Kisurugi who had returned, this time bringing along 2 high-ranking demons. The story then rewinds to Kisurugi's past, after they were cursed when they saw the ghost of Ravenla, a beautiful witch, and were dragged down to the demon world. He had fallen in love with this witch, but this love broke another curse that imprisoned Ravenla. The curse was that if she fell in love with someone, the spell preventing aging would vanish and all the time that had been frozen would turn back at once. As a result, Ravenla quickly disguised herself, and her time was running out. In her despair, the Primars told Kisurugi that her only chance of saving her was to search for the legacy of a time-controlling sorcerer, believed to lie deep within the Great Mekong. This is what prompted Kisurugi and his group to enter the Mekong, and it's also the reason why they attacked Morlock's group. Because they believed Morlock's group was also pursuing the same goal, back in the current battle, Lafanpan immediately warned Raelza about Kisurugi's dazzling skills. Meanwhile, Gi Bango, having been healed, rushed forward to block the demon's attacks, buying Morlock time to prepare an offensive spell. As the demons showed off their immense power, one of them even confidently asserted that it didn't need to use complex spells, then unleashed an extremely powerful blast. In this critical situation, Kimura called on old Morlock to use a higher-level form of magic. He said he would use a spell called the Seven Thunder God spell, and luckily, he memorized the entire complex incantation. With Kimura's help in reading the incantation, Morlock successfully cast one of his most powerful spells. The marketplace displays a statue of the Thunder God attacking enemies, creating a valuable. But just when everyone thought they had the upper hand, the two demons merged into one and, in the blink of an eye, seized Kimura's head. Because he knew that he was the one who carried the burden. Without a second thought, he crushed Kimura's head to death, but luckily it was Kimura's body double. Thanks to Ui and Lilith's skills, they arrived just in time to save Kimura. Ui explained that because Lilith was worried about Kimura, she used tracking magic to find their location. Kisurugi continued to order the demons to attack. Old Ryan was facing one of the most powerful demons, and she was on the verge of being overwhelmed. Then Flanro and his group joined the battle, and it didn't stop there. The hero group, led by the four-channel group and including Mampui and the female mage Veishi, also appeared. Mampui explained that because Kimura's group had penetrated so deep, everyone guessed there must be a large treasure hoard here and followed along. The sheer number of the strongest adventurers gathered made Kisurugi and his group realize that they couldn't win by sheer numbers. Ninia, a member of Flanro's group, suggested that they should use combined magic to completely destroy the demons and those behind them. As Lafanpan and Ninia together performed a high-level exorcism spell, a divine light was formed. Ready to cleanse all evil forces, in that decisive moment, Kisurugi did not hesitate to rush out and shield a demon with his own body. A friend he had known in the dark world, a divine beam of light struck him. He inflicted a serious injury, because even an assassin like him possesses the left-wing attribute. Everyone was astonished by this act. They couldn't understand why an assassin would risk their life to protect a demon. Kimura was the first to speak up, saying the match was over and they should stop. But Elf strongly objected, arguing that Kisurugi and his group were suspected of ambushing and killing many other adventurers, and they couldn't let them get away. Desperate, Primars decided to resort to the last measure. She began reciting an 8th-level spell, an extremely powerful and dangerous type of magic. She revealed that in order to perform this magic trick, a black-winged fairy like her had to sacrifice her wings. Because the place contained a large amount of magical power, she asked Kisurugi to give her wings, but he hesitated. His close friendship with Primars wouldn't allow him to do that while they were fighting. The other members of Kisurugi's group charged forward, ready to sacrifice their lives to buy them time. Finally, Primars couldn't wait any longer. She used Kisurugi's own shuriken to wrap around her, employing telepathic abilities, and then she herself was unleashing a massive surge of dark, malevolent energy. Primar's past was later revealed. She belonged to the rare Black Fowl fairy tribe and was constantly hunted by the green explorers. That's what made her hate them and decide to deliberately gain weight to become less attractive. But that made her move slowly and made her easier to catch, and on one such occasion, it was Ravenna who saved her, and they quickly became close friends, sharing the loneliness of those who had been abandoned, all because of that debt of gratitude. Because of the one friendship she had, Primars was willing to sacrifice everything to save Ravenna. When the dark magic was unleashed, it formed a gigantic mistress, a powerful black goddess who had been restored. Ready to destroy everything in its path, Faniu was the first to take the hit. It started wreaking havoc all around, forcing everyone into a defensive stance. Kimura summoned the old demon and used his. However, when the spell was cast, the master remained completely unharmed, even becoming stronger, and even if they aimed at its eyes, it could still close them in time. At this point, the man called on the old demon to use magic to stop time. He had seen it through the previously locked magic book, and upon reviewing it, he realized it was a time-space manipulation spell. It seemed that, in a moment of heightened awareness, the story goes back to the old ghost's past when he was young. He had a daughter. The two were very close. However, the mage still prioritized advancing his magical skills. He studied day and night, neglecting his wife and children. Even though his wife urged him to stay home for a day, he refused because he was preparing for an exam to get promoted, and that was a disastrous mistake made by By the time he brought home his promotion certificate, it was too late. His daughter had died of a high fever, and his wife had gone to the doctor but they didn't have enough. The girl had been dead for too long for the church to revive her, now the ghost was feeling the pain. After his daughter's death, his wife left him, and he became so enraged that he screamed and smashed things around him. Then, a book caught his attention. It contained information about It lies within the great labyrinth of the kingdom. With the sole purpose of saving his daughter, the demon embarks on a solo exploration of the labyrinth. The mage discovered a place containing many artifacts from the earth. There, he also found some samples of magical threads that affected. Magic connects to other worlds, but none of it reverses time. Just then, a hidden figure emerges, revealing that this person is the one who wrote those spells. He asked the other man to give him the magic to reverse time, and the other man agreed on the condition that he defeat him. The demon immediately agreed. This name is beyond human comprehension. Every cup of tea is opened with a level 10 lightning strike. Both attacks were extremely powerful and collided, creating an explosion, and after the smoke cleared, both were The man in the suit had no words of praise for Morlock, for he had given him a pleasant feeling before leaving this world, and as compensation, instead of giving him the magic to reverse time, he erased his memories of his deceased daughter, so that he could no longer remember any painful memories, and the name Morlock was also given to him by him to start a new life, to return to the present. The original owner of all this trash couldn't hold out much longer, and although old Morlock didn't remember anything about staying in Kimura, he felt very guilty for dragging. But the man said it was alright and told him to focus on the battle. Then he called everyone to concentrate on defense so that all eyes would be on the enemy. After Morlock uses time-altering magic, they will launch a full-scale attack on the eye, then concentrate all their resources on defense and offense. The monster also sensed something and attacked more relentlessly, but Kimura and Morlock still skillfully dodged its attacks and after a long wait, the time-stopping magic was activated. Everyone, including Morlock, was stunned. At this moment, his chronic amnesia flared up, and he couldn't remember what he was supposed to do. Usually, this spell only lasts for about an hour for an ordinary mage. Of course, for Morlock, a great sorcerer, it took about 100 hours. He stood there, completely lost track of what he was supposed to do next. But when Mora had anticipated this, before the battle, he used a pen from his own world to write important instructions on Morlock's hand. The words, "attack the eyes with magic," became clearly, and when Morlock read it, his memories suddenly flooded back, not just memories of the plan. But it is also a memory of the deep affection he had for his comrades. He realized how lucky he was to have Kimura, Lafanpan, and Raina by his side. He regarded them as his own children and was determined to protect his family. Morlock unleashed his full power, using a secret technique to amplify his magical abilities to their ultimate limit. Then, he began practicing the Hoa Kan Hit Fa mantra, a fairly common level 3 mantra. But with its magical power now hidden, it became even more powerful than the 7 thunder gods. However, just as he was about to unleash the spell, he saw his opponent's memories. In Kisurugi and Han's gang, he saw love, loyalty and even the remorse behind their cruel actions, and upon learning the truth, Morlock couldn't bring himself to kill them anymore, so he came up with another plan. He split his magic in two, using one half to attack the evil god. Enough to destroy it but without harming those around him, and he used the other half to dispel the summoning magic. At the same time, redirect that energy back into your own body. As a result, the demon was destroyed, but the price paid was that Morlock's arm was blown away by the counterforce of the spell. He sacrificed a part of his body to save everyone, including his enemies. After the battle ended, the chaos gradually subsided, leaving room for difficult decisions. Morlock's arm needed to be reattached, but he refused, instead requesting that everyone prioritize finding and reattaching wings for Primars. He explained that because he had seen their memories, he could no longer consider them enemies. Morlock's selflessness deeply moved everyone, especially Raja, and also angered him somewhat by his recklessness. Kimura then quickly discovered that Primar's wings were Lafanpan, aided by the magical power of the turtle. Prepared to spread his wings again, but Primars, with the pride of someone deeply wounded by humanity. The fairy refused the help, saying it was an act of charity she didn't need. Meanwhile, Kisurogi frankly admitted his crimes. This included attacking and possibly killing a knight and a mage from a neighboring kingdom. He accepted the death sentence but asked for only one thing: let his demon companions and the Primars be free. He also confirmed that this was the person they were looking for. The mage who can manipulate time is most likely Morlock, whose real name is Chrome. A well-known name in the East, but then, Morlock, after having his arm healed by Fansan and Mampui, denied that ability. He said that he did not possess the magic to reverse time. He could only temporarily suspend the practice, and that the true sorcerer was someone far more mysterious and extraordinary than himself. He probably brought items from another world here. But that person left this world a long time ago. Just when there was only a glimmer of hope left, the sorcerer and the holy knight appeared. They were determined to kill Kishiroji. But a demon used its body to shield him from the blow. The remaining demon stood up to protect both of them. At that moment, the holy knight revealed himself to be the former demon king, much to everyone's surprise. Even more surprisingly, the two demons were his grandchildren, and all three were delighted to It turns out that the former demon king, having been defeated by humans, had joined a king's army. The two demons, having both lost to Kishiroji, followed him. Then Kishiroji explained why he was there. Even the old man was at a loss for words because he had no idea which world the other guy. When all hope seemed lost, the minister, the person accompanying the former demon king, offered a dazzlingly. He revealed that his friend, a magic knight, was capable of using rejuvenation magic. A type of magic that exists only in legend. This type of magic demands an extremely high price. It was the life of a person deeply connected to the one being rejuvenated. Kishiroji immediately offered his life to save Vela without hesitation. The woman he loved, despite fierce opposition from his demonic friends. This was an extremely difficult decision, but after some discussion, all parties agreed. From high-ranking officials and former demon kings to other adventurers, everyone agreed that this was probably the best way for the crimes Kishiroji committed. When Kimura was given his final word, he recalled the moment Kishiroji had tried to kill him. But he also understood the difference between someone who wants to be useful to others, a feeling he had experienced himself, and he agreed with everyone's approval. Morlock Lafanpan and her companions performed a special spell to send Kishiroji's demon friends back to the demon world. Before they were transported away, Kishiroji, the assassin of the Shadow World, had one last brief conversation with Kimura. The repairman had strived to be needed in another world. He realized that Kimura, despite his seemingly frail appearance, was actually the central figure connecting and that if it weren't for Kimura, they probably would have won. He inquired about Kimura's true identity, and Kimura simply replied that he was a general-purpose repairman. Then Kishiroji left with the minister. Then the entire expedition team began exploring the treasure hoard containing many artifacts from another world. As for Kishiroji, the sorcerer that the minister mentioned, he was actually When Kishiroji led him to the sorceress, he drew out his blood sword. The sword has the ability to absorb the life force of its enemies and transform it into a In a frank conversation, Kishiroji admitted his guilt. That he had lived the life of a killer and never realized the value of the lives he had taken until he met and fell in love with Raelza. And that he deserved to die. But he wanted his death to be meaningful, to be used to save the man he loved, the king. After hearing the story, they agreed to help. But instead of taking Kishiroji's entire life, he decided to take half the lives of both Kishiroji and Primaz. Those who have the deepest connection to Raelza and through that ritual. Raelza was resurrected, regaining her youthful form, but she had completely lost her memory. Forgetting both Kishiroji and Primaz, Kishiroji, with a broken heart, decided to leave in silence. But Primaz wouldn't allow him to do that. She scolded him, calling him a cowardly clown. If he truly loves her, he has to stay and make her love him again. Her words awakened him, and at the same time, a group of thugs appeared, intending to cause trouble for Raelza. This is Kishiroji's chance to show himself, even though he might be weakened after the ritual. He easily defeated them all with his dazzling ball skills, protecting the woman he loved. And at that moment, a new connection seemed to begin to blossom. The two Lumang turned out to be two demons in disguise. They had enjoyed watching from afar, both knowing that they would surely fall in love again. And a new chapter has opened for ninjas and witches. A symbol of love, atonement, and hope, Kimura's group returns from the depths of the earth. They successfully brought back countless valuable items retrieved from another world, although they were all later confiscated by the royal wizards for research. However, what Kimura regretted most wasn't the loss of the first items. The Malakon robot vacuum cleaner has disappeared without a trace. After parting ways and promises to meet again with other adventure groups, an important question was posed by the ninja. She wanted to know if Morlock was the one who had inadvertently brought Kimura back to this world. After some thought, Morlock finally remembered. He admitted that he had attempted to use a magic spell to travel between worlds on that fateful morning. It's not meant to be a return to Kimura. Instead, he was searching for someone incredibly important whom he had forgotten, but the magic had failed, and by some coincidence, it inadvertently drew Kimura here. Just before he was hit by a large truck in his own world. This fact opened up a new possibility: if Morlock could recreate that magic, he might send Kimura back, but that would also create a long-term problem. Returning also meant facing the certain death that awaited him at that time. Ryan was the first to object. She couldn't accept her loved one leaving and then running out of the restaurant. Kimura quickly ran after him. In a rare moment of quiet, just the two of them, Ryan asked Kimura if he really wanted to go back. Kimura admitted that he also has a family and misses them a little. But in that world, nobody really needed him, and vice versa. Here he felt needed more than ever, especially by Ryan's arrival. He directly asked her if she needed him. And just as Ryan was about to confess his true feelings, a monster clad in armor suddenly attacked, and Ryan, despite being unarmed, rushed out to shield Kimura. Even a minor sting from a cockroach venom can have serious long-term consequences. That life-or-death moment became the catalyst for the final confessions. Ryan said that the person who needed him most in this world, even more than everyone in his old world combined, was her. After defeating the monster, Kimura, despite having gained a deeper understanding of this world, they quickly treated Ryan's wounds with poison and magic potions. Then he said he wanted to stay, to be with the person who needed him most. And so their adventure seemed poised to continue as usual. However, fate had other plans. Morlock, who was also bitten by the snake's venom after it survived Ryan's attack. He did not make it, and while the group was busy exploring the upper levels of the labyrinth for the next 4 days, thinking he was just resting at home, bad news arrived upon their return: the venerable fake sorcerer. The person who had been with them through so many ups and downs, the person who unintentionally brought Kimura in, he had quietly passed away 3 days earlier in the mysterious and dark realm of the underworld, where a dog with a life-saving, the proud heir of the demon aristocracy, it was a born butcher, capable of taking down any creature, from demonic beasts, from the beastly to the powerful breeds. But then one day, fate brought it together with a creature it had never seen before. A wolfess wandered from the human world, and from the very first glance, the heart of the brave and strong dog was stirred. They quickly became inseparable, creating a beautiful but also complicated love story. Until its owner, a cruel nobleman, set his sights on the beautiful wolf girl and ordered it to give birth to her so that she could be stuffed into cotton for decoration. Faced with that harsh command, the dog made a bold decision. It was determined to help its lover escape to the human world, regardless of the risks. And in that bloody escape, the wolf was severely wounded and did not survive, but she left it one last gift. A mixed-race child, burdened with pain and despair. The dog, now a mother, is raising her little one alone in the sun. By teaching it how to produce scents so it could survive in the human world, it thought it was free. But it didn't know that its owner had secretly placed a binding spell on it. And as that invisible chain continued to silently control him from afar, the story of this single man was temporarily put. Returning to the tragedy of Kimura's group, news of Morlock's death dealt a devastating blow to the entire group. The landlord recounted that the body was temporarily placed in the warehouse to prevent decomposition. It was partially eaten by a stray dog, making Morlock's resurrection difficult. Because resurrection magic can only succeed when the corpse is completely. Rai is the most miserable, despite always arguing with and teasing Morlock. Deep down, she always considered him a cruel person, and in the face of his permanent loss, she couldn't control her emotions. But Kimura encouraged everyone not to give up, saying that as long as there was even the slightest glimmer of hope, they had to do everything they could, and his words lifted the spirits of the whole group. They decided to exhume Morlock's grave and find a way to preserve his body while searching for another solution. However, when they returned to the cemetery, Morlock had come back to life, but not as a human, he had become a living being. Having lost all memory and attacking his own teammates in the main battle, Kimura used holy water to purify Rai's weapon. As it failed, at that very moment a burst of fire appeared, killing the living creature. Then a familiar voice rang out from another direction. It was Morlock, in flesh and blood. He explained that he had been cursed with a resurrection contract. A high-level form of magic allows the user to be resurrected a day after death, but the spell seems to have malfunctioned. He kept transforming between human form and a misty figure, and was more terrified. He discovered he had lost a vital organ. The portion had been eaten by the stray dog, and it was this deficiency that prevented his resurrection process from being complete. This created an extremely worrying situation amidst the group's confusion. Gi Bango, Morlock's loyal servant, appeared and offered a solution. He explained that it was based on an encyclopedia of magic called Magipedia. If the resuscitation process fails due to a missing body part, they simply need to find that part again, even if it has been digested. The magical energy of a powerful mage like Morlock still lingered within the dog that ate it. Therefore, if they find that dog and it dies releasing magical energy, Morlock could be fully resurrected. And so, a new hunt began, the mission to find the stray dog that had eaten Morlock's genitals. But the search was not easy, because Morlock's magical energy was too powerful. The presence right there caused chaos in the magic due to the search of Gi Bango and Lafanpan. Fortunately, Kimura had experience from his work finding lost dogs and cats in the old world. Thinking of a more practical solution, he drew posters to find the dog. Distinguished by a cross-shaped scar on his forehead, and quite by chance, Flamro recognized the dog from a monster-slaying request posted in the tavern. They learned that it was attacking people in an area west of the town, which was also near Morlock's tomb. And without a moment's hesitation, the whole group, along with Gi Bango and then Flamro's group, he immediately set off, returning with the dog born from the demon world. After consuming Morlock's corpse, a large amount of magical energy flooded into its body. Having caused an uncontrollable transformation, it has become more aggressive and powerful. But at the same time, he lost his sanity, becoming a true monster. And when Kimura's group found it, an inevitable confrontation ensued. But this is not just a war, it's also a family tragedy. Because in a private conversation with Kimura earlier, Morlock had revealed a secret. Raelza, the girl he adopted, actually has a deep connection to wolves. She had lived with a wolf cub for many years, and that story hinted at a truth. It's highly possible that the newborn dog they're facing is the offspring of the wolf from years ago. And it's also a part of Raelza's past, a past she's always tried to bury. Finally, Morlock, sensing his own decline, offered one last plea to Kimura. He asked Kimura to take care of Raelza, his beloved daughter. Like a final farewell from a dying father, the wolf had now lost all control of itself. It saw Morlock and assumed the old man was trying to reclaim his magic, so it decided to eliminate him. Meanwhile, there was a conversation. Min shyly said that he didn't know how Raelza felt, so he couldn't make any rash promises. But apart from old on Min, nobody else knew that Raelza liked Kimura. Old Morlock wouldn't force you if you didn't want to, at most, you could just find another man for your daughter. After some thought, he recalled the words he had spoken earlier. Kimura decided that on Min called old Morlock the broken old man and hoped the lady would let him take care of her. Old Morlock was overjoyed to hear that. He told Kimura to quickly confess his feelings to Raelza before someone else snatched her away. The father and son hadn't had much time. The wolf, like a tiger coming to collect a debt, lunged at Morlock, snatched his arm, and without a word, continued its attack on Kimura. Hearing head Raelza's voice, Lafan ran towards them, only to be met with a horrifying sight. Old Morlock was motionless, Kimura was wounded in the stomach, the wolf was still snarling, so Raelza told Lafan to take care of her husband first. As for old Morlock, he's dead anyway, so he'll be resurrected later, she said, then lunged at the wolf to avenge both of them. It lunged forward to bite, forcing Raelza to block it with her hand. She drew the knife in her left hand, preparing. From within the wolf's den, it managed to flick its tongue out. This unexpected attack severely wounded Raelza's hand, but she refused to accept defeat. Taking advantage of the wolf's renewed attack, Raelza executed a spinning move, successfully inflicting a wound on the wolf's neck with his. Taking advantage of its dying state, Raelza swung his peach-shaped weapon, but unexpectedly, the wolf cub hearing that weak whimpering sound woke the father wolf and brought him back to The wolf father stepped forward, accepting defeat and begging Raelza to spare his son's life. She accepted the challenge and prepared to act when suddenly the wolf father was attacked by creatures from hell. He then planned to burrow underground to bring the wolf back and make it into a 7-course meal, but Kimura stopped him, saying they needed to keep the wolf, otherwise the old man. As a fan of Raelza's arm recovery and the magic bestowed upon his greatsword, the demon master also stayed to play with them for a while. He then cast a lightning spell to attack. Raelza still charged forward, thinking she could kill him before he finished casting the spell. However, this guy's voice was so fast that it caught Raelza by surprise. The demon quickly finished chanting and attacked her, but luckily the fans managed to use their coins to create a white shield for Raelza, saving her. Taking advantage of the opportunity, she also stabbed the demon, easily destroyed. But no, that's phase 1. Phase 2 begins when another demon emerges from within the demon. Before anyone could prepare, it launched a surprise attack, severely injuring the fan who was using Kimura's protective spell. Raelza, assessing the situation, realized and she couldn't do it alone, so she told Kimura to take the Lafanpan and run back to town while she stayed behind to hold it off. Following her instructions, Kimura took the fan and ran away. He went to where the wolf was, intending to kill it and use the wolf. However, seeing how determined the wolf cub was to protect his father, he didn't want to abandon Raelza, he needed to do something. And just when Raelza was bound by the demon and about to die, the man appeared. He used his upgraded sword to tie up the demons with ropes, then splashed holy water on them. It struggled in agony. Raelza broke free and split it in two with a single blow, thinking it was over, but the demon continued to cast a spell. Kimura quickly pushed her away and was frozen in place. The fight then continued despite Ryuza's weak resistance. After only a few attempts to defend herself, she was completely exhausted, yet she still held her arm to protect. At that very moment, the demon's head was split in two. The culprit was none other than old Morlock. It turns out Kimura had managed to kill him along with the wolf beforehand, so that old Morlock could absorb its life force and revive himself. Now he's back and more formidable than ever, able to remember the incantation without needing prompting. Then he used a high-level 8 trigram sword technique to destroy the demon, rendering it unable to resist. Everyone was happy about his return, but what surprised them even more was that scruffy hand. He explained that he had previously promised the adult guinea pig that he would protect its young, so it must have called out to him by transferring it. Now he'll probably adopt that scoundrel, Morlock's protege, to explain why he hasn't withdrawn yet, as he's being outmaneuvered by the market and the pack of predators. And even though firestorms were used to wipe them out, their numbers only increased, not decreased. Fortunately, Coelf's group arrived to provide support, while Kimura's group. As old Morlock was about to pick up the little fox, he was struck in the heart. It turned out the demon wasn't dead and had gotten back up. However, these repeated stabs awakened Morlock's power. He began to rejuvenate and become even stronger, the frenzied demon charging forward. Morlock started off gently by summoning a giant golem, which he thought would be incredibly powerful, but the demon easily shattered it. However, Morlock said he was just joking. Then he used his magic to control the fragments of the golem and punch the demon. Unwilling to accept defeat at the hands of a human, the demon regenerated itself and charged at Morlock, but its opponent was a rejuvenated Morlock. Even old Morlock couldn't defeat it, so what chance does he have now? Morlock locked the demon in place, then used his divine power to conjure up a meteorite to test the demon's power. However, the demon was miraculously still alive, and Morlock pondered whether to use his monster-capturing spear. However, at this point, the old man had run out of magic and was aging again, compounded by his chronic dementia which caused him to forget all his spells. But the man said no. He used a sword to chop off the demon's arm, then he instructed old Morlock to perform a complete purification ritual to thoroughly cleanse the demon. Ryan ran over to hug Kimura, and just as they were about to kiss, the demon's mouth threatened to bite them both. At this point, the wolf cub appeared to resolve the situation, and the fans spoke up, suggesting that to be sure. By this time, the elves had finished their task and came to help old Morlock. The old man remembers all the girls but forgets his disciple. After finishing the current task, the rest is up to the wolf. Old Morlock said he would take it back to the demon world because it had the blood of a wolf and therefore could not survive in the human world. Then, suddenly, he came up with a better idea. Then he reminded Kimura to keep their promise, and Morlock approached the wolf cub, using all his strength to revive it. Furthermore, it also removes the original path so that it can live normally in the human world. When the wolf awakens, the old man. Then they brought old Morlock back. He had once thought of himself as a useless, replaceable person. A thought that haunted him in his old world. But then he realized that there were people who needed his existence, and that made him incredibly happy. Because in this new world, it seems everyone needs him, from fixing odds and ends to rescuing friends from perilous situations. And so, he was always constantly looking for things he could do to help others. A feeling of being needed became his new motivation to live after a grueling battle. Kimura found herself waking up in a strange room, with Raja beside her. She breathed a sigh of relief when she saw him awake. Because he had slept soundly for over a day after they returned, he felt guilty for constantly bothering her. But Raja explained that he had been frozen by their magic and that his unconsciousness was understandable. Meanwhile, a thought flashed through his mind. He wondered if she had been by his side, taking care of him all this time. He hurriedly inquired about Morlock's condition, and Raja reassured him that he was fine. And indeed, when they found Morlock, he was happily flirting with a maid in the tavern. Although he had helped the police transfer his magical powers into a dog, he recovered completely overnight. To atone for causing the innkeeper so much trouble, Morlock decided to stay and help out. This surprised everyone else, and then another incident occurred when a large man burst in demanding the return of the 7 gold coins the old man owed him. Later, Kimura and Raja climbed together to the summit of the Great Mekong, where he was able to admire the magnificent view from above for the first time. A fortified fortress was built to defend against monsters that might emerge from Mekong and beyond. They could even see the enormous crater created by Morlock's magic. He felt relieved to know that Morlock had fully recovered. And then, in that peaceful setting, he decided to talk to Raja about a matter that had always puzzled him. He asked her about his complete lack of recollection of changing his clothes. Raja quickly clarified that she hadn't done it. Being the disciple of the sect made Komuro breathe a sigh of relief. However, what he really wanted to talk about was the dog. He had seen her talking to it many times and wondered if it was because she had once lived with a wolf. Raja admitted that Morlock had told him about her past, about the 3 winters she had survived with a wolf that looked very much like a puppy. She confided that perhaps it was because she lived with wolves that she had become more rude and blunt than other women. She felt she could only belong to such a strange group as theirs. It includes a useless old wizard, a squeaky woman, and now you too. A mediocre repairman. Hearing her self-deprecating remarks, Komuro asserted that he too was part of that group. And he needed her, Raja, more than anyone else in the world. And even more than anyone else in the world he had abandoned. His sincere and unexpected declaration of love deeply moved Raja. But at that very romantic moment, G.I. Bango appeared and cut short the sun. The announcement stated that his employer had lost the key to the inn and needed Komuro, the only person who could open the locks that were fitted with camouflage net. He came to help, and once again, he was needed. And even though he didn't say I love you, Raja implicitly understood the meaning of Kimura's words, and the anime ends here. Goodbye.